What would you do if you saw a cop break the law right in front of you? Most people would just look away, keep driving, pretend they didn't see anything. But Alberto Cones, he did something different. He flagged that officer down. And what happened next was caught on camera. Every single second of it. The lies, the cover-up, the fake police report, all of it recorded. And today, we're breaking down exactly how one man's GoPro and a cop's own Bodycam destroyed an officer's entire story. It's January 15th, 2025. Late night in Hollywood, Florida. Alberto Cones is driving home. Normal night, nothing unusual. Then he sees it. Officer Kaiser Urena of the Hollywood Police Department runs straight through a red light. No emergency, no sirens, just ran it. Now here's where Alberto does something most of us wouldn't dare to do. He flags the officer down. He wants to talk. He wants answers. So Officer Urena pulls over. And this is important. Urena pulled over because Alberto asked him to. Not the other way around. But the moment that conversation starts, everything goes sideways. Instead of explaining himself, Officer Urena immediately demands Alberto's ID. No reason given, no traffic violation mentioned. Just, give me your ID right now. Alberto refuses. And honestly, legally, he had every right to. Now, before we go further, let's talk about the law, because this is where it gets really interesting. Yes, Florida law does say that drivers must carry their license and show it when asked by an officer. That's Florida Statute 322.15. Sounds simple, right? But here's the thing. The Supreme Court settled this back in 1979. The case was Delaware versus Prowse, and the court said very clearly, an officer cannot demand your ID without reasonable suspicion that you committed a traffic violation. Think about that. Urena didn't pull Alberto over. Alberto flagged him down. There was no traffic stop. There was no violation. There was no reasonable suspicion directed at Alberto. So when Urena demanded that ID, he had no legal ground to stand on. Alberto wasn't just being difficult. He was legally correct. And deep down, Officer Urena knew it too. Here's where things get really suspicious. After going back and forth with Alberto for several minutes, Officer Urena does something that should make every single one of us uncomfortable. He mutes his body cam. Just like that, camera goes silent for several minutes. Now think about this carefully. A police officer on duty during an active encounter with a citizen mutes his camera. When that camera comes back on, everything has changed. Urena's entire story has flipped. Before the mute, he openly admitted multiple times that Alberto was the one who stopped him. After the mute, suddenly, he was the one who conducted a traffic stop. Suddenly, there was a lane violation. Suddenly, Alberto had been swerving dangerously. None of this was mentioned before. That camera went silent. You have to ask yourself, what exactly was being planned during those muted minutes? Because whatever it was about to be put in writing. Officer Urena's official probable cause affidavit, that's the document officers filed to justify an arrest, told a completely different story from what the cameras actually recorded. The report claimed that Alberto swerved into Urena's lane, but Alberto's GoPro footage shows him clearly in his own lane the entire time. The report claimed that Urena initiated the stop because he was concerned Alberto might be having an emergency, but the body cam shows Urena never once mentioned an emergency. He only ever asked for ID. The report claimed that officers gave Alberto multiple commands to exit the vehicle and that he kept refusing. But the footage shows Alberto stepped out immediately. First time asked. No hesitation. And here is the most damaging part. Earlier in the encounter, before that camera was muted, another officer asked Urena directly, did Alberto commit any traffic violation? Urena's answer? He never once mentioned lane departure. Never mentioned swerving, not a single word about it. But somehow, that same lane violation ended up as the entire legal justification for the arrest. One lie, then another, all of it documented, all of it contradicted by Urena's own camera. Eventually, the officers order Alberto out of the vehicle, and Alberto, to his credit, complies immediately. No resistance, no fighting. He gets out. He's handcuffed, hands behind his back, going nowhere. Then the officers tell him to sit on the ground. Alberto tells them he has back problems. He can't just drop to the ground like that. Officer Urena's response: he forces him down anyway. Now, legally, this matters enormously. The Supreme Court addressed this exact kind of situation in Graham versus Connor back in 1989. The court said force used during an arrest must be objectively reasonable based on three factors. How serious was the crime? Was the suspect an immediate threat? Was he actively resisting or trying to flee? Let's check all three. Alberto was already handcuffed. He was not fighting. He was not running. And the entire incident, if any offense even existed, was a minor traffic infraction. A handcuffed man, not resisting, being forced to the ground. A court looking at this would have serious questions about whether that force was anywhere close to constitutional. So let's zoom out for a second and look at what actually happened here. A man saw a cop break the law, he had the courage to say something, and instead of accountability, he got handcuffed, forced to the ground, and arrested. The officer filed a report that contradicted the video evidence on almost every single point. The camera was muted at the exact moment the story needed to change, and a new justification for the arrest appeared out of nowhere, one that was never mentioned before. That camera went dark. But here's what Officer Urena didn't count on. Alberto had his own camera, and Urena's Bodycam, the one he thought he controlled, had already recorded everything before it went silent. This case is a perfect example of why cameras matter, not just police cameras, but citizen cameras too, because when one camera gets muted, sometimes another one is still rolling. The system is supposed to have checks and balances. The body cam is supposed to be one of those checks. But what happens when the officer controls the camera? Alberto Cones didn't fight, he didn't run, he didn't threaten anyone, he just knew his rights, and he stood by them. And in the end, the footage told the truth that the report tried to hide. If you believe in accountability, share this video, because the only thing that exposes corruption is sunlight.